coral reef restoration, which has been perfected. The method has been perfected by Reefolution to the sea, and you can see that after a while, when the coral reefs are gone, the whole houses start to crumble down.
So my name is Guido Paap, and I'm a project coordinator and dive instructor for the Reefolution project. We do coral reef restoration in Shimoni, and also now in Diani we do a pilot project. Coral restoration is basically about restoring the coral reefs. The coral reefs in Diani are quite degraded, and we try to recover as much as possible by growing corals and outplant these corals to artificial reef structures. Do you want to know? So what we do, we dive into the ocean and we look for corals of opportunity. These corals are found on the bottom of the ocean. They can be broken off by fishing activities, by waves, or by sea turtles resting on them. We take these broken coral fragments and then we put them in coral tree nurseries. You see coral tree nurseries here in the back, and we hang them in there. Then we maintain the nurseries for about a half year till a year, until these little coral fragments are grown into larger colonies again. So the large coral colonies that we harvest from these nurseries, we take them to artificial reef structures like bottle reefs and cakes, we call them. These provide a hard substrate where fish also can hide into, and where the corals can grow into larger coral structures, and then baby fish can actually grow into larger fish, and that will help the fishermen to have more food and catch for nutrition for the community. When we are diving, when we take off these fragments from the bottom and we hang them there in the nurseries, it will stay all under the water, and it will grow under the water by perfect lighting, by nutrition flowing through the nurseries. And then when they are fully grown, we take them out and we will outplant them to these artificial reefs, which are also under the water. It's important, I think there's three major benefits to mention here, because the coral reefs, they have a very important role for the community. The first one is that it provides food and nutrition for the community, for the fishermen to get their catch, for fish what is healthy growing in the reefs. Secondly, it's important for erosion, so they will stop eroding the beaches, they will stop eroding the coastline, and a healthy reef will stop the waves from smashing into the beach. And if the beach erodes, that will leave not much space for tourists to actually enjoy the beautiful beach of Diani. And the third reason that it's very beneficial to have a healthy reef is that it attracts a lot of tourists for doing snorkeling, dolphin watching and other
I'm Peter Vodegel. I'm a marine biologist, and I help to set up this project, especially with the marine part, on how to restore the corals regarding coral reef ecology. So first a bit the basics about the project. 2 years ago, Swahili Beach Resort approached Reefolution to see if coral reef restoration was possible here in the reserve, because there was a lot of degraded coral reefs, and stakeholders started noticing the negative results. So due to overexploitation and climate change, coral reefs around the world are degrading. About now 50% of all coral reefs have been degraded, which is a huge consequence for people around the world, because around 1 billion people are depending for their livelihoods on coral reefs. They expect that by 2050, 95% of all coral reefs might be gone. As 25% of all marine life depends on coral reefs, this can have a huge consequence for all marine life in the ocean, may disturb the whole balance of the ecosystem in the ocean, and have a huge consequence for all the 1 billion people depending on coral reefs and the animals thriving in coral reefs. Yeah. That's it. Coral reefs are also called the tropical forest of the sea, because they provide as much life as the tropical rainforests do in the Amazon. And therefore, if we lose this ecosystem, it might be the first ecosystem we lose with lots of marine life. In my eyes, if we manage to preserve this ecosystem, the coral reefs, then I think we can also preserve all the other ecosystems on the planet, as we might lose them due to overexploitation. Worldwide, 50% of coral reefs have died in a 1998 bleaching event here in the south coast of Kenya. 60 to 80% of all coral corals died. And the corals had a chance to recover when the area has been protected. So in a marine protected area, the coral reefs could recover. However, Diani National Marine Reserve, the reserve here, has not been protected, and therefore since 1998 has been steadily degrading until there was less life. And by now all the local stakeholders, they noticed the result of the decline. In general, the biggest enemy worldwide for coral reefs is climate change. Climate change is causing the waters to heat up, causing the corals to live in a much heated environment. It's like the corals would have a fever, and if we personally would have a fever for too long, we would also die. For example, the people suffering from malaria. Other problems are mainly overexploitation and pollution. Overexploitation is like taking away too much fish, because fish keep the corals healthy, but also overexploitation by dynamite fishing or fishing nets that drag around the coral reefs and take away the corals, break them apart, then you take away the houses from the coral. The effect of like building, construction, etc. I think the biggest problem with that would be pollution. For example, factories that deposit harmful substances in the rivers, or agriculture with a lot of chemicals or pesticides ending up in the rivers, and then the rivers bring those chemicals to the coral reefs, and then the coral reefs start dying because it's toxic for them. Also, a small side note for tourists, if you come with sunscreen, please use sunscreen that's coral friendly, because most sunscreens are not coral friendly and they actually do kill. So the goal with the coral restoration project, well, this is a pilot project, and during the pilot project we like to restore in 2-year time 1,500 square meters. If we manage to do that, then we're going to restore key locations in the reserve, and from the key locations where the corals are healthy, the corals can spread out. So from there on, the whole fish can go to new locations, the corals with the babies can settle new locations, and that's the way we hope to restore the whole Diani National Marine Reserve, which is 75 square kilometers.